bring in Jason Jones. Let's bring in the professor, Jason Jones of The Athletic, who I believe has got his Eat, Sleep, Conquer, Repeat shirt on. Yes, indeed. How many wrestling shirts do you have?
I honestly have no idea.
Over, I mean, we're talking double digits.
Oh, yeah, easily.
2 dozen?
Oh, more than that.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
And the problem I have now is that my oldest son is now starting to take my shirts.
Well,
So whatever I do have, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got a bunch of shirts, but he's like, oh yeah, I can fit this.
your oldest son is like 6'9" too.
Yeah.
So that's
So it's just like I'll just wake up one day and he's wearing like one of my Roman Reigns shirts to school or my Brock Lesnar's. But the one advantage is that he's so much taller than me. I'm like, you can't wear my size. I got to get you a bigger one.
Is it weird as a lifelong wrestler? You cover wrestling for The Athletic from time to time. That Vince McMahon no longer owns the World Wrestling Entertainment?
Crazy.
I don't know if that's weirder or that mustache is weirder.
Well, okay. It's the mustache, to be clear. The mustache is by far weird. There's always been this story. Like, I'm sure Vince hates facial hair.
Yeah,
It's a true story. He hates facial hair.
I just don't get it. But it is weird the idea that he doesn't own WWE anymore. But I mean, there's always been these rumors off and on for years that they were going to get sold to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and so you kind of figure as you hear those type of rumors for years, year after year, eventually something will happen. So yeah, I mean, it's a different world, I guess we're in now. Everyone's becoming like a super team.
Do we like have an idea of what this even means though? Like what are we gonna see? What does it mean for people like wrestling, UFC? Is there gonna be
I
real
imagine
UFC fights on a wrestling special live event? Like what's the correlation between
I have no idea, but I mean, it would make sense that you start maybe, you're watching, I don't know, Survivor Series and someone from UFC's ringside or vice versa, stuff like that. If there is someone who wants to maybe cross over to the other venture, I assume that would make it a little bit easier. But I don't know how, like, say, WWE contracts are structured compared to UFC, and
Yeah.
I mean,
wrestling contracts are way better.
UFC contracts are structured as you're not getting anything unless I decide you are.
yeah. So I mean, this is going to be it's a weird thing,
I don't think any of that's happening, to be honest with you. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think Dana wants anything to do with any of this. And I believe he still oversees the UFC part. I know that there's people above Dana White now. I think one of them is Nick Khan. But I think marketing deals could be like something to look at. Video game type stuff, action figure type stuff. I think UFC in that sense would probably look to capitalize off of what WWE has been able to build over the last 40 years. But for the most part, I don't think there's going to be a lot of anything between
Yeah.
these two entities.
Makes sense. Your next WWE video game downloadable players are like a UFC
Chuck
guy.
Liddell, yeah.
Right.
John Bones Jones can now go against John Cena. Stuff like that.
Let's talk Kings here for a minute. We just learned that JaVale McGee and Alex Lynn are solidified as the Kings' backup centers. Nerlens Noel and Neemias Queta were waived today, taking a lot of conversation out of the upcoming training camp. There was a big, who's going to win these backup 5 minutes? And the backup 5 minutes have been set. It's likely Trey Lyles with JaVale McGee and Alex Lynn. Does that tell you anything about this team's mindset heading into training camp and in their first preseason game less than a month from now?
I mean, not really, because I mean, like I said last week, you didn't bring in JaVale McGee to not make the team.
Yeah.
And Queta was a long shot anyway. So I mean, I think you kind of do them a favor and say, you know what, because I mean that's the thing about it, really, especially NBA training camps. You go in knowing all the guaranteed contracts. You go in basically knowing this is your team. Some of you guys are just here to get us through camp, and it's actually to me a decent thing to do. So you know what, you got in the case of Noel, you're a vet. There's probably a team out there that you can help. Why should we hold you up during training camp when you can go out there maybe before camp starts and find a gig? So I just think it's, it just makes sense. It's one less thing to worry about. You know what your team's going to pretty much look like going into the season. So there's no need to like kind of, waste those guys' time with the whole notion of if we just, if you guys work hard, and do your best in camp, yeah, you're still going to
Mhm.
get cut. So go
you
ahead and give them a chance to, find a gig somewhere else.
do you think that, and this isn't necessarily why they did it, I don't think, but just asking a question. Do you think situations like how the Kings handled Keita and Nerlens Noel is something that players respect around the league and remember later down the road, or agents respect around the league, and could help them out when they're negotiating with somebody who has the same agent or played on the same team? Like, they handle business right over there. Do you think some of that comes into play with this decision?
Yeah, I don't think it'll hurt him. I mean, I think with these two guys, it's so let me because of the players you're talking about. Maybe I don't know how much it helps because I doubt that Cato had like a fully guaranteed deal or anything like that.
Mm.
You know, but I think it does help. I don't know the back talks. Maybe there was an agreement, kind of like, hey, or maybe Monty let them know, hey, if we bring somebody else in, we'll do you a favor and let you go so you could go ahead and do that. I mean, it's a decent thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do for these guys, just because no one was going. You knew they were going to keep like 5 or 6 centers.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I know, and that's why I always feel for the beat writers out there, where you got to write these stories during training camp, and you're writing your Nerlens Noel story, knowing Nerlens Noel, you got to get it published before Nerlens is cut, or you got to, you got to write a story about, it's usually more for smaller market teams where the fan base really cares about 1 through 15, 1 through, in this case, 18, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I've always, like, on media day, would feel so bad for a guy like Keita, who comes out there and he gets like surrounded by 4 or 5 people asking him questions. I'm like, leave him alone. He's just taking pictures. He won't be here in 3 weeks, or the worst is when someone's just asking a guy who we all know won't be on the team like 25 questions. Like, how can you help the team? It's like he's going to help them in practice and then go play in the G League. Like, leave him, leave him
I
alone.
love that question. How you going to help the team? I don't know. Score, rebound. Like, what do you think these guys are going to say? Like that's
I would have been like,
right. You're right in the sense it's like, yeah, like Sacramento Kings fans, we had this conversation with James yesterday. Like, we're probably talking about a guy who's not getting any playing time here. It's 1 through 15, 1 through 18.
Yeah. And I know back in the day, I would go back and forth with fans on Twitter, and I'd be like, are you guys really arguing about this guy? He's not going to play. Oh, come on, you're just being lazy. I'm like, he's not going to play.
You're being a hater.
Yeah, well, we all know I am a hater, because I should have been saying, you know what? If he works really hard, yeah, he'll definitely be playing. Never mind, they have a guy they're paying $10 million ahead of him, and a draft pick, and blah blah blah. But hey, it's one of those things. Like I said, we're talking about a guy, a couple of guys who weren't going to play. So it's best they get a chance to move on, find another gig. And if you're a guy like Noel, who's a vet, who what he is, somebody gets hurt in training camp this year, he's a guy you can just add to your roster real quick.
And like, to the point of like talking about guys who weren't going to play, we already talked about the guy who was better than both of them, like JaVale McGee, playing like possibly every 3 games. So if you're behind JaVale McGee, when are you playing?
Mhm.
If he's playing every 3 games, when are you going to get in the game? So, yeah, these guys are solid, man, and let them see if there's anything else out there.
Yeah,
The roster,
yeah, because if the bonus is going to play, say, 32 minutes, Mike
Mhm.
Brown's not going to be like, hey, let me give JaVale 4 minutes, let me give Alex 4
Right.
minutes.
That ain't happening.
And Trey, you get 4 of the other 4 when you're not playing the 4 spot. You're not going to do that.
So the roster is pretty much set and everything. Is this something that is this like typical of most teams, or would you say it's typical of good teams where it's like no camp battles? Like, we don't even really have any roster battles, right? It's like we even know how the depth chart is going. Is that typically how these good teams go? And we kind of not used to that because the Kings usually are so devoid of talent. There's always some type of roster battle going on, or is this just common between good teams and bad teams all the NBA has everything almost set coming into training camp.
I think it's every NBA team because if you go into a camp and you've got 14 guaranteed contracts, those 14 guys are making the team. And most teams will try to leave that 15th slot open in case like a Nerlens Noel comes available and your backup 5-man gets hurt. I think the idea of a roster spot battle usually has been pretty overplayed, and especially in the modern NBA. I mean, I don't think anyone looked at the roster and goes, you know what? Who's going to take, Keegan Murray and Aaron, and De'Aaron Fox's minutes? You know who's going to play. And even bad teams go in knowing, hey, we've got, say, 7 young guys. These guys are going to play the bulk of the minutes. So I think everyone, you pretty much know going in who's going to make the team. I think the one sport where you might have a little like question mark is football, but even then, you're talking about maybe 2 or 3 spots. It's like I said, it's great for like a little, your little reality TV shows. Will he make the team and all that? But generally, you go into even when the Kings were third worst, you knew who was making the team.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears. You brought up football. How about your AFC West first place, Las Vegas Raiders?
With a division win already.
A division victory. Jimmy Garoppolo, the quarterback of the Raiders' future. Come on, man. We know your personality well enough to know you're riding high after this victory, aren't you?
I got to, because you got to, because this thing might fall apart real quick. I might be sad on Sunday.
Got an angry Buffalo team coming. Everybody talking about how much Josh Allen stinks. Watch him.
500 yards, 5 TDs, no picks, perfect quarterback rating. Yeah, I mean, I know how this script tends to go. So
that was a good win on Sunday, though. That was a really good win.
It was,
I'm saying, like, I like Denver a little bit more than others. So I look at that win going into Denver and getting that win and gutting it out, come from behind win as well. I thought that was a good win for the Raiders,
especially with 3 of your first 4 on the road. You got to get one of those. You got to get one of those games on the road. To get the first one, Jimmy, he had the one bad throw, but outside of that, kind of just managed, did what you needed him to do. Got that big run, kind of put the game away. Defense wasn't awful. So I mean, hey, like I said, you take your wins. Like I said, I'm not banking on saying 5 weeks about the Raiders being in first place. So let's go ahead and enjoy this right now while we can.
How was the Jimmy G experience with him wearing your team's uniform?
See, I like Jimmy more than most people. I just to me, you have to go in and understand who you're dealing with. I know Jimmy is not, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes. So I don't go in there thinking, oh my God, he's got to throw for 300 years. That's not what he's going to do. I think the one thing Jimmy's proven that is he can win games. It may not always be pretty, but he can win some games. And my question with the Raiders was just, do you have enough around him to help? Because I mean, if you're not asking him to throw for 35, 40 times a game, you got a good running back. Got to figure out the tight. You had a Pro Bowl level tight end before you traded him. So so you hope what you got there helps. Maybe they've got like 10 slot receivers. So I would love to see Devontae Adams get going, this week. But to me, Jimmy is not my biggest concern with the Raiders. It's just going to be, that defense. I think they've got enough on offense where they should be able to score. I mean, Derek Carr had a bad season last year, and they still were able to score at least for half of games. So I think I'm fine with Jimmy. I knew once you knew Derek was going to be gone, you knew the kind of the quarterbacks they were going to pick from was pretty limited. I was not on that fool's gold of Jarrett Stidham having the one good game against the Niners. People were saying, oh, they got to keep Stidham. I'm like, no, you don't. Go out there and get you a vet, get someone who and then eventually they'll have to find their young quarterback of the future. I don't know who that's going to be, but they're not going to be bad enough to tank this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, you ride it out with Jimmy for a couple of years and see what happens.
So watch this trend, Dilfer, I'm about to hit you guys with.
Uh-oh.
Jimmy Garoppolo isn't going to win you games but he wins games.
Yeah, that's a Trent Dilfer.
You smell what I'm cooking though? He's not going to win you games.
I actually
but
think
he
I
wins
do.
games.
I think I do. It's very Dilfery.
I mean, like he had that run on that, that third down. It's like, okay, you look at the stat sheet, you don't go, wow, this blows you away with what he did in the game, but he won you the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to win you games, but he wins games.
Yeah, so I'll, you know what? I don't care how it looks as long as there are W's.
That's it.
I don't care. I don't care how it looks.
I think there's some talent on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is too. I mean, my question is about the guy calling the plays, sideline.
Well,
I mean, people act like last season that wasn't a playoff team the year before. They act like they didn't make the playoffs.
That's because that's what Josh McDaniels acted like. He was like, "Oh, we're a work in progress, bro. It's a playoff team." What are you talking about?
You got the NFL's leading rusher, a Pro Bowl tight end, a Pro Bowl DN. You went out and got Devontae Adams. You paid Chandler. Let's pray for Chandler Jones. You paid him a bunch of money. You're supposed to believe you're rebuilding. We gotta figure this out. No, you don't go get Devontae Adams and say, you know what, let's figure this out.
Yeah, he tried to pull the okie doke, but
yeah,
I agree with you, Damien. I think they do have talent on here. I think this is a team that is around 500 on the season. I still believe that, and they got one step closer to that with that win on Sunday.
God, that sounds so sad. They got one step closer to 500.
One step closer.
Hey, but
they're above 500 right now.
Yeah, but you play 17 games that are either going to be above or below 500.
This is true.
No more 8-8s in the NFL.
I'm gonna miss that. I like 8-8. They're really an 8-8 team. Can't say that anymore.
It was the ultimate lazy response. Nice little 8-8. Like, no, it's not the case anymore.
Now they're a nice little 8-9 or a 9.
And now you got to say both 8-9, 9-8, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Or you can go 8-8-1.
They could either be a winning or a losing team,
That's it. It's a good call. A winning or a losing team. We're full of Trent Dilfer quotes today.
Mm-hmm. All we got to say is, you know what? If the Raiders outscore the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, they'll win the game.
That's it. And there's the ultimate.
I mean, that's the key what's the key to the game? You got to outscore them.
That's it.
You got to find a way to outscore them.
You can't lose games in the NFL and win. That's it. It's simple as that. Simple as that. You can't lose games in the NFL and win.
You can't expect to lose games and then and get to the playoffs. Like,
you notice how they not all the time, but I'd say like 80% of the time, 85%. They always say the National Football League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are we saying that? It's NFL.
The National Football League.
Maybe it's in a contract somewhere. They want to get the whole name said, Because I've never said I'm going to go watch the National Football League.
Never.
I don't even know if I said I'm going to watch the NFL.
I'm going to go watch a game.
I'm going to watch football. Yeah.
I'm going to watch the National Football League playoffs. Which ones? The American Football Conference.
Really big into that American
Conference wild card game.
Slightly related. I want to know what you got cooking up over at the Athletic, but to what we saw last night. We haven't spent much time talking about. We did reference it. At what point do we stop talking about Colin Kaepernick being a quarterback in the NFL?
He probably should have been at that point a couple of years. I mean,
I love Cap. He's 35 years old. I mean,
35. You haven't played in how many years?
I think we decided it was 6. 2000.
It's disingenuous to be like, well, hey, your quarterback got hurt. Go.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you just sound silly. And
his agent or his people, whoever, you're not helping him putting that out there. Like, don't. Yeah. It's not. It's like, going to get a reaction. That's all it's.
We reached out to the Jets. That's like me saying, hey, Meg the Stallion. Hey, I reached out to her. I reached out to her. I heard she's single. It's like, so what? It's like
the string of unresponded to DMs that Jason Jones said.
Hey, did you see this? Hey, how you doing? Like,
I think Meg would give you more play than Woody Johnson would give Colin Kaepernick.
Well,
yeah, I might at least get blocked by Meg if I they're just like he's not gonna play. The New York Jets are not signing Colin Kaepernick. Stop. I mean, to me, it's a quick engagement tweet or whatever it's called now. Is it called an X now? I don't know what it's called.
I still call it Twitter.
I still call it a tweet. But it gets a certain crowd going. Yeah. Look at this. To me, the bigger NFL news with that is the Jim Trotter lawsuit.
You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I just read what I read online. Obviously Jim's a colleague now at the Athletic, but some of those comments they were cited from the ownership, from the owner of the Bills and Jerry Jones. I was like, ooh, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I guess the one quote was attributed to the Bills owner essentially said, if the players don't like it, they can go back to Africa. And he says he didn't say that. And I guess Jerry Jones was said to have something to the effect of that if black people don't like what's going on, they can buy their own team and hire who they want, which is obviously not true. You just can't go buy a team because you want one. And then I guess
whatever.
That's the part that Jason pokes holes in. Like, black people can go get what they want. Well, you can't just go do that, Jerry.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, I just want to go buy a team. Like they're at Walmart on the shelf. like right by the Madden video game, there's NFL franchise, a literal franchise. And he says, I guess his response was that was mischaracterized.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a conversation 3 years ago. And I've known Jim Trotter over 20 years. I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about Jim Trotter. So I'm going to believe Jim Trotter until someone can prove to me I shouldn't believe Jim Trotter. And come on, let's be real. Are we surprised that an NFL owner would say something like that?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, they make it sound like it's the most bizarre thing that they would have said. Oh, I would have never said. Come on. I mean, people played for Donald Sterling for years, and we knew what Donald Sterling was.
Right.
And people still signed there. And, Doc Rivers left Boston to go, work for him. It's just kind of like, Jim asked what was a very fair question, and he paid for it with his job.
Yeah. That's a lot, man. I mean,
but hey,
the crazy thing is they're gonna skirt around it again.
Yeah, that's okay. You can still get Black Lives Matter on the back of your helmet,
Hey, I noticed end racism is back. Did you guys see that?
No, I didn't notice that.
The NFL is trying to end racism again. It's back.
They're like, this lawsuit is coming. Spray the end racism in the end zone immediately.
The quote from Jerry Jones is, if blacks feel some kind of way,
wow,
they should buy their own team and hire who they want.
Man, bro, that's just wild. That's wild. Like, just saying that like that.
Oh my God. I mean,
that is wild.
It's not funny, but it is, because it's like, man, it's 2023.
I'm about to say.
And we're still reading stuff like that. It's man, how, okay, but I would say I'm at a loss for words, but I'm just kind of like, I can't. I'm just, man.
The other Jerry Jones quote is actually funnier.
Oh my gosh, there's another one.
Yeah. Diversity and inclusion are extremely important to me personally and to the NFL. That's even funnier than blacks should buy their own team.
Ooh,
at least one of them he's being honest about.
That's a good one right there. Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh.
I'll say this about what Jason just said a second ago. I've never heard a bad word about Jim Trotter ever. Like, he's just not out there pulling stuff out of his ass, throwing it into a lawsuit. Like, that's not who that person is.
Right.
Not at all. And so it's good, just another NFL Tuesday, then we'll get end racism, I'm pretty sure maybe Jerry will take a knee this week.
Oh, for God's sakes.
maybe Jerry will get some kente cloth and put a Dallas star on it and sell it at the stadium. He's going to show us. He's going to be like, yeah. He's going to have a kufi on and the owner's box with a star on it.
If Jerry thought people would buy it, he'd do it.
Now, I just want to sit here. I just want to sit here and say, I can't wait for next June when I celebrate Juneteenth.
He was like, let me go get Quincy Carter to sit up here next to me.
Okay. So that's a good point. Like, there's going to be a black person sitting next to Jerry Jones at the next game.
Someone.
He is going to find a black person to sit next to him.
Who can I get to sit next to me? He's like, man, Emmett's out of town. Mike's not here.
Even get my colored Rolodex.
What's Nate Newton doing right about now?
Oh, God.
He went to an HBCU too. Yeah, let's get Nate up here. What are you doing?
You
Nate?
know what? We're telling all these. You have to come Thursday. What are we going to be doing?
Oh, talking about the Eagles Vikings.
That's the cycle.
We just continue to put up with it.
Yeah, like I was thinking the other day. I was like, remember when everybody said they weren't going to watch the NFL anymore?
Oh.
Remember those days? And all the people who were telling you I'm not watching somehow always knew the score of the game.
Every time.
Super Bowl ratings have been record ratings for like 4 straight years.
Like I said, you're not going to stop the NFL. I mean, the NFL is a machine. And no matter what, no matter what happens with the players, what they do, we're going to watch. And we're going to watch. And and it's for every fan base has the point where they were like, well, we're not going to watch. Well, I guess I'll watch now if this happens, or it's and you start getting into the, well, what about this sport, or are you going to watch the NBA if this happens? You got down with the thing with the Orlando Magic where people are saying, hey, if they're going to donate money to that guy, should we support the Magic? I mean, Jonathan Isaac would disagree, but
yeah.
I don't know what you do. I mean, everyone's, at the end of the day, the NFL is going to make a ton of money. They're going to have a big Super Bowl. They're going to get they're going to be Florida. They'll get like some maybe some hip hop-ish people to play. They'll get Jay-Z to find some good music and we'll be all good and no one will care, and then they'll have a rapper do the intro before the game, and they're diverse. See, just don't have that guy try to do a job.
Something just registered with me. The quote, I joked about the quote from Jerry Jones, which was a real quote, the representation. Then he followed it up, the representation made by Jim Trotter, a conversation that occurred over 3 years ago with myself and VP of player personnel, blah, 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 blah. 3 years ago. Wasn't that when Roger Goodell was at the Rock Nation office with Jay-Z?
Yep. Yep. That's a bad lines up.
I love Hov. I feel like he failed us on this one.
I agree.
Yeah. I can imagine Jerry Jones gets the news that Jay-Z's down there. He's like, God, he wants to help with the music. He'll want to buy a team next.
Well, we all know that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
I ain't never going
to Woody? Right, Woody? That's not going to happen.
Let them get their own league. I mean, for God's sake, they leave us alone. They're trying to make us hire people. They're actually trying to make us have, have actual fair hiring practices.
I saw this the other day. The NFL.
Right, he said Jerry will clear his name by doing an interview with Jason Whitlock and Emmanuel Ocho.
Whitlock will tell him, you know what, you're right.
It said, don't worry about it, Jerry. You're right. I can't do a Whitlock.
Yeah, please don't.
I don't watch enough Whitlock or hear him enough to do a Whitlock.
Good.
We talk about they just keep on moving. The NFL, I saw this is just kind of stunning to watch. They have a $12.3 billion media empire, is what they're calling it. They get $2.7 billion for Monday Night Football.
Did you see how many people watched last night?
The most ever. They get 2.3 for NFL on CBS. They get 2.1 for NFL on Fox. They get $2 billion for Sunday Night Football. Another $2 billion for Sunday Ticket, and $1.2 billion for Thursday Night Football on Prime.
They get $1.2 billion for those terrible games they give us on Thursdays, where half of the team is still injured from Sunday.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Jay, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
But what's cooking at the Athletic before you go?
Okay. Well, my Shaquem Griffin's story dropped today. Remember Shaquem, the
Mhm.
linebacker who had his own left. He's the only known NFL player to make it to the league with one hand.
It's
Mhm.
And now
amazing.
he's doing a lot of different things, off the field now that he's retired. Working on some other things, some like video game anniversaries, type stuff. Still working on some hip hop stuff too. So we'll keep the stories rolling, and we'll see what happens. From there.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, Jay. Thank you as always, my
All
friend.
right,